The Bike Riders is probably the best documentary movie that you're never going to see. It was really good acting, but it was super dialogue heavy and it was mainly just about motorcycles. I don't even know if I would say I enjoyed it. I'm not a documentary person. I'm not someone that wants to sit there and see a documentary unless it's something very captivating. And there wasn't a lot of action. For a movie about a motorcycle gang that's fighting and doing all this rambunctious stuff, you did not see a lot of that in this movie. That being said, the acting was still top tier. It has Tom Hardy in it, but the movie, just the pacing to me was very, very slow. Like if my mom and I had gone to see this movie, she would have fallen asleep. This was the kind of movie that I don't know what they were thinking with the pacing. I don't think it was supposed to be exciting, but the trailers showed all the exciting bits, so you went into it with that expectation, and it was very much so just a documentary. It felt like a film fest type of movie. The whole premise is there was a gang of motorcycle gang called the Vandals, and they started up in the '60s, like the late '60s. And there was this guy from New York that interviewed them and followed them around. I was studying photography, and he wrote a book. So this movie was based off this book. And in order to keep the authenticity of all that, that's how the movie was kind of filmed. Was one of the Vandals' name was Benny, and his wife that he met was Kathy. So Kathy is narrating what happened to the Vandals from 67 to 71 while being interviewed. And that was essentially the entire movie. Now there were bits where it would just she'd talk over the background, like be like, "Oh, they went to go burn down this bar after this happened to Benny," and then it would pan to that, and then Kathy wouldn't be narrating over it; it would be the gang members doing whatever that was. But again, the pacing was slow. It wasn't something that I would see again. It's something that if it had been any more, like if the acting had been bad, I would have walked out because I was bored. The majority of the movie, I was very, very bored. And there were three people that walked out of my theater. Keep in mind, I saw this on a Sunday. Yeah, I saw this on a Sunday when there was only about 15 people in my theater. So 3 out of 15 people leaving is a little wild to me, but it wasn't exciting. It was pretty dull. The ending was very lackluster. You had a main character who, so her husband's name was Benny, and Benny had someone that he really, really looked up to. And that person that Benny looked up to winds up dying at some point in the movie. And my first thought is, oh my god, Benny's gonna find out and he's gonna go get revenge. And then he's gonna do all this stuff, that's where this is gonna go. And none of that happened. Like Benny found out and he didn't do anything. He literally did nothing. And I'm not gonna spoil really what happened, but it was not exciting. It was not what I was expecting. I'm sure they wanted to keep it based off of this book and based off the real events as an homage to the characters that, are real life people. But it did not make for an exciting movie. It was more of a Sun Film Festival type of movie, like I said. Um, I would say the coolest part was just seeing the bikes and seeing the progression and the degression of how this gang went. Like they became like a brotherhood that looked out for each other. They all saved up money and got a phone in case one of them got in trouble. It's the '60s and '70s, so they have like one big corded phone in the back of the little place they all hang out. And so if you get in trouble, you get arrested, you give the phone a call and it'll bail you out. Like it started as that, and then as all these new members joined, it became an actual gang, and that was cool. Seeing the '60s and '70s, that time frame when they shoot movies in that era is really cool for someone who's much too young. Like that was decades before I was alive. So seeing that was cool, but this is not something I would recommend seeing. This movie, if I had to give it a rating, I'd honestly say like a 4 or 5 out of 10. And again, the acting was great. If you're a movie buff and you like a good script, maybe you loved it, but for someone who's going to the movies to be entertained after a long day at work, I want to be entertained. I don't want to sit here and just be bored out of my mind. And there's a way to do documentaries that is exciting and enjoyable, and this wasn't it. All right, that's all I got. See ya.